Welcome back, my peoples. I hope you're having an amazing start to 2023. I'm so ready to dish out the dirty details on whether Prince Harry is the victim of narcissistic abuse and needs to call the domestic violence hotline at 800-799-SAFE. Or better yet, call Better Up, since he's a spokesperson for that mental health organization. Guys, should he be reaching out for professional help instead of doing all these tell-alls at the behest of his handler? If and only if he's experiencing emotional and or physical abuse at home? Before I jump right in, please hit the subscribe icon on the screen or the button below. Hit the bell icon to know exactly when I post a new video. Alrighty, grab a seat. Let's go. In today's episode, I'll explain the signs of narcissistic abuse and let you be the judge as to whether Harry has experienced this kind of abuse in his relationship. First things first. Have you noticed a lot of people are calling Prince Harry a narcissist lately, especially amid the Harry and Meghan Netflix retell of his and Meghan's truths? And the song bites related to his upcoming CBS 60 Minutes interview and memoir, Spare? There's so much to take in, guys. Spare me already. Honestly, I'm feeling overwhelmed from the constant tell-alls. I mean, we've been dealing with tell-alls and telling their truth since 2021, starting with the Oprah Winfrey interview. That said, and right off the bat, I don't think Harry is a narcissist. Just so you know, psychological experts say almost every adult has one or more narcissist traits. That also means you and me. But here's the thing. Narcissism isn't always a bad thing if the person uses their traits in a positive way. For example, a communal narcissist will hunt for attention and an ego boost by doing charitable work. Oops, why does Meghan Markle and her so-called charitable ventures come to mind? However, with a communal narcissist, they aren't really interested in helping others, but it's more about getting praises and being seen as a good person. I've covered Meghan's narcissism in my video titled, Does Meghan Markle Have These 9 Narcissist Traits?, which you can check out in your free time. Alrighty, let's get back to Prince Harry. Right off the bat, I don't think he's a narcissist. What I think is happening is that he might be a victim of narcissistic abuse, possibly within his marriage. I know it's a major stretch, but hear me out. I will explain why I think Harry might have been exposed to narcissistic abuse. In fact, how about I ask you? Do you think Harry has been acting out of character lately? Like he's no longer his usual old self? Has he changed dramatically? After marrying Meghan Markle? What's going on? And does it have anything to do with narcissistic abuse at home? I'll tell you this. If those who have labeled Meghan as a narcissist are right about that, Harry might be in a very precarious situation. Now, I'm not saying he's a saint, especially after airing his personal family matters on public television. Notwithstanding, I do feel he's an empath at the core, and that's probably why Meghan was able to stick her claws into him so good that he's unable to break away from her grip, from under her control. If you don't know this, empaths are people who are able to connect with others on a deeper emotional level. On the other hand, true narcissists, sociopaths, and psychopaths lack empathy and are able to hurt others physically and emotionally without flinching. Narcissists seek out to date, marry and exploit empaths solely because they are easier to manipulate. Empaths tend to trust easily and see the best in others, thereby making themselves easier targets. Therefore, if Harry is in fact an empath, even if he has mild narcissist traits, it's absolutely possible for him to be emotionally abused by a malignant or sociopathic narcissist. It's the opinion of many that his wife exhibits traits of malignant or pathological narcissism, also known as narcissistic personality disorder. And as recent as last month, Meghan was called out or labeled a narcissist by journalist Joanna Weiss, who writes for Politico. Let's take a look at what narcissistic abuse is and signs Prince Harry may be a victim. Narcissistic abuse occurs most commonly in close or romantic relationships. It is recognized as a type of emotional abuse by psychiatrists and psychologists. Constant emotional abuse by a narcissist who uses manipulation tactics to keep the victim under their control will eventually take a toll on the victim's mental, emotional, cognitive, and physical health. So what are some of the narcissistic abuse tactics the person might use to control their partner or the victim? First, a narcissist is someone who either has narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, or displays a pattern of traits that cause a toxic and dysfunctional relationship. These are the 9 narcissist traits listed in the diagnostic of the Statistical Manual of Mental Disorder, DSM. As I go through them, I want you to keep Meghan Markle in mind as far as her being a narcissist goes. Number 1, an inflated sense of self-importance or being egotistical and feeling superior over others. From that comes a sense of entitlement. Number 2, grandiosity or a tendency to exaggerate small things such as their talents, skills, abilities, accomplishments, events, and life experiences. We're still talking about narcissists here and their traits. And it's relevant to discussing whether Prince Harry has suffered or is experiencing narcissistic abuse at home. Number 3, a chronic need for attention, recognition, admiration, and validation. Number 4, lack of empathy, not caring how loved ones feel when they, the narcissist, misbehaves. Number 5, a know-it-all attitude, also called arrogance. Number 6, exploiting loved ones and others for personal gains. The benefits could be attention, sex, social status, money, etc. Manipulating the victim using threats, coercion, gaslighting, blackmail, withholding of sex, seduction, and the silent treatment to exert and maintain control over the victim. Number 8, jealousy and envy. The narcissist might be jealous of their partner's accomplishments, status, or abilities. Jealousy causes narcissists to compete with their partner for the spotlight. Number 9, last trait, being preoccupied with fantasies about power, success, and beauty. The narcissist, when dealing with their partner, will do one or more of these emotionally abusive things while the relationship exists. Number 1, lie to their partner. 2, deny things they said or things that have happened. 3, gaslighting, for example, telling a lie in a way that makes their partner question their own reality, memory, or sanity. 4, shift the blame for their own wrongdoings. 5, they never take accountability for their poor behavior. Number 6, they put down, devalue, and discard their partner. During the cycle of narcissistic abuse, whenever they don't get their way. And narcissistic abuse, speaking of cycle, occurs as a cycle, like any other type of domestic violence or abusive relationship. And it starts with love bombing the person, the partner, and then they will start to devalue, and then eventually they'll discard the partner, and then they'll come back around and start back at the love bombing phase where they're providing and showering their partner with a lot of attention and affection to sort of reel them back in. Emotional abuse can make the narcissist's partner helpless and even cause what is called Stockholm Syndrome, which is a state of mind where the victim begins to see the abuser as a helper and not someone who's harming them, and complies with whatever the abuser wants them to do. Dr. Lenore Walker, a licensed psychologist and author of the book The Battered Woman, called this behavior helplessness. The victim, whether it's a man or a woman, may stay in the abusive relationship even though the abuser is no longer holding them captive, emotionally or physically. Okay, what does this have to do with Prince Harry? It's my opinion that the once friendly, warm, energetic, and carefree prince has been or is being subjected to emotional abuse in his relationship. Let's take a look at 5 signs someone suffered narcissistic abuse or shows symptoms of narcissistic victim syndrome. And I'll use that information to back up my opinion as to whether or not he's in fact a victim of narcissistic abuse. Sign number 1, isolation. Less than 2 years after their marriage in 2018, Prince Harry hinted he's leaving royal duties to focus on family. After stepping back as royals, him and his wife exited the UK and began their life in California in March of 2020, according to news reports. The only family Harry came with was Meghan and Archie, his son. Since then, Harry remains thousands of miles away and barely in touch physically and maybe emotionally with his father, brother, friends, and the late Queen, whom he once shared a close bond with. If, in fact, Meghan is a narcissist and intentionally moved Harry away from his loved ones and support system, that's considered narcissistic abuse by way of isolating the victim, which would be Prince Harry in this case. Not only that, by not stopping Harry from bashing his family and accusing them of racism and bullying, etc., Meghan is able to further isolate Harry's family from him and Harry from his family. The royal family, decided to maintain a dignified silence and have not come out to defend Harry or Meghan from the negative press they've been getting after the Netflix docuseries. So far, there's no talks of reconciliation by the royal family, and Prince William reportedly wants nothing to do with his brother Harry. If true, that's a win for Meghan. If and only if she's a narcissist and has isolated Prince Harry on purpose to exploit him in the marriage and the royal family. Sign number 2, someone has suffered or is exposed to narcissistic abuse, reduced self-esteem. Ask yourself, how did Prince Harry go from being a bubbly, confident young man to looking like someone who has been beat up and dragged around? He usually appears sad, disheveled, downtrodden. And even when it's time for celebration, like at the Queen's Jubilee in June of 2022, I believe, he looked very unhappy. What could have possibly happened in his life to transform him to the man he has become, so to speak, the man we see today? Meghan wants us to believe They have an amazing marriage and happy life in Montecito. However, she's an actress, number one. And number two, Harry's body language does not align with his wife's claims that they're living a blissful life. Now listen, I'm not hating. I like to see couples happy in marriage, in love, in their relationship, with their family. I mean, come on. We all want that. At best, though, Meghan is exaggerating and embellishing the narrative, as narcissists tend to do. Receiving constant criticism, put downs, and getting devalued and discarded by the narcissist throughout the narcissistic abuse cycle will cause the victim to suffer from low self-esteem. If the person started out with low self-esteem from the get-go, things can get even worse for them as far as their self-confidence goes. In other words, has Harry lost self-confidence and stopped believing in himself like victims of abuse do after their partner reduces them to nothing? The victim may also feel guilty or ashamed of themselves and not good enough. Getting you to feel worthless is how a narcissist weakens you and is able to dominate and control you. The narcissistic partner will then provide love and affection, which causes the victim to depend more on the narcissist to feel better about themselves. At the same time, getting called dumb and stupid one minute and getting loved up the next minute by the same person confuses the victim. It's that state of confusion that can make them feel something is wrong. But they are unable to figure out that they're being abused and find it difficult to leave the relationship because of the sprinkles of love and affection by the narcissistic spouse. Sign number 3, trouble making some decisions. Do you think the Netflix tell-all bombshells from Prince Harry's memoir Spare, CBS 60-minute interview, and wildly hurling accusations at his own flesh and blood seem like do they seem like sound decisions? Well, not if he wants to reconcile with his family. From what Prince Harry has said, he wants his father and brother back. At the same time, his actions and accusations are contradicting. How can you ask or say you want to have your family back, meaning the royal family, and at the same token, in the same breath, you're accusing them of bullying and racism? And from what has recently dropped overnight in the news, Prince Harry has accused his brother of physically attacking him when he tried to defend Meghan Markle. Okay? Nevertheless, this has led people to think that Prince Harry is out of his mind, or to the very least, disconnected from reality. And narcissistic abuse can make a person disillusioned, delusional, and cause dissonance or a sort of disconnection from reality. If Prince Harry is being controlled and dominated by a narcissist, he'll wind up not being able to stand on his own 2 feet. Narcissistic partners have to stay in control of everything in order to feel whole. Otherwise, they get anxious and depressed, according to psychologists. They have to control the narrative. We've also seen a lack of sound decisions when Harry preaches to the world about reducing their carbon footprints, while he continues to fly in private jets with large carbon emissions. Sign number 4, someone is being abused by a narcissist. Protective of the abusive partner. After being in an emotionally or physically abusive relationship for a long time, the victim may start blaming themselves for the situation. They sometimes dismiss the abuse as not happening or not serious. They tell themselves they must have done something wrong to deserve the ill treatment. In other cases, they are aware of the abuse but deny it's happening. Psychiatrists call this cognitive dissonance. The abuse is happening. They may deny the abuse is happening, rationalize, minimize, and deny it. These are defense mechanism or survival mechanisms for the person in the abusive relationship. In order to reduce cognitive dissonance that erupts when the person claims to love you, mistreats you, victims of abuse convinces themselves that the abuser really is not really all that bad, or that they must have done something to provoke the abuse. It's easy to deny the abuse, especially if the abusive partner provide love, attention, and gifts after an abusive episode in order to smooth things over. The narcissist may even apologize and make false promises not to hurt the victim again. These acts by the abuser create what is called a trauma bond. They gradually cause the victim to rely on or become codependent on the abuser to meet their emotional and even physical and financial needs. Here's what Psych Central had to say about victims being protective of their abuser. And I quote, "Victims may protect their abusers from legal consequences, portray a happy image of the relationship on social media, or overcompensate by sharing the blame of the abuse." Prince Harry has consistently defended his wife while he lived in the UK and even now, as evidenced in the recent Netflix docuseries. He also wants his family to protect her. How many times have you seen Meghan issued a public statement defending Harry or appear protective of his mental health and well-being? Has she ever come out and said something on his behalf? Supporting him while he takes his own royal family to the slaughterhouse is also protecting him. Well, she's not protecting him, actually. Supporting what he's doing on global television isn't protecting him. She might be enabling him. Yet, Harry stands up for Meghan. Why? Could it be because of narcissistic abuse within the marriage? Sign number 5. Anxiety, depression, or post-traumatic stress disorder. Harry has hinted to the fact that he's in therapy, but never really said for what exactly. He even has several, not one, several emotional support dogs. There are speculations that he is living with mental health conditions such as PTSD, anxiety, and depression related to the sudden and tragic death of his mother, Princess Diana, a woman I adored when she was alive, and I still adore her. Gathering from his Netflix interview, he also experiences anxiety related to getting followed by the paparazzis, whether it's real or imagined. And it's probably almost to the extent of a phobia, which is a very strong and overwhelming fear that something terrible is going to happen, even if the person perceives it and it's not really, there's no present threat, there's no threat to their well-being. That's a phobia, and he could very well have a phobia for the paparazzis. And I understand that, because any one of us can suffer from mental health conditions, whether it's anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, you name it. No one is exempt. Mental health conditions do not discriminate. And so here is where I really do feel empathy for Prince Harry, whether his trauma has affected him, his trauma from his mom's death has affected him all his life, is still affecting him, or whether he's being traumatized or re-traumatized within his marriage because of some of the things that he's experiencing, or in any other kind of relationship. He could also be experiencing mental health conditions because of the separation from his family, which, by the way, he chose to do. And that's a risk he took. But we still can empathize with Harry and anyone else who might be in this situation. Long-term isolation, though, away from loved ones, can also lead to anxiety and depression, according to psychologists. Depending on the severity, the isolated individual can also experience suicidal thoughts or engage in self-harm, especially if they suffer from issues like borderline personality disorder. When I look at Harry's face, I don't see a happy man. Many commentators have said he appears disheveled, and I'm quoting here, disheveled, out of it, unhappy, delusional, paranoid, or as if he needs help, meaning mental health treatment. I cannot diagnose Harry, and I'm not diagnosing Harry, as I do not have the clinical credentials to do that. But it sounds harsh to be labeled in those ways. He's still a human with feelings. He's a person. However, a large portion of my work surrounds mental health therapy, narcissism, and recovery from abuse. What I can say is that if Prince Harry is a victim of narcissistic abuse, I empathize with his situation and hope that he'll put fear, shame, guilt, and ego aside and seek help. He has to put his mental health first, ahead of everything else, ahead of his wife, ahead of everything, because he's got to have his own back first. And no one will have his back better than himself. No one has our back better than ourselves. Dear Prince Harry, if you're watching this broadcast and can identify with these signs and symptoms of narcissistic abuse, also known as narcissistic victim syndrome, help yourself. Someone at the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233 is available 24/7 to provide help. So guys, what do you think? Is Prince Harry the victim of narcissistic abuse? Are these claims true, lies, or very much scandalous? Let me know in the comment section. Don't forget to hit subscribe and follow me on Twitter at True Lies Scandal. See you next time.